Ciao a tutti, Kia ora, and welcome to another episode of Art Yoga Pills. Today with me, I have a special guest. I have Britt Little from Dream Big and Generation Thrive. How are you, Britt, today?
Yeah, I'm doing good, thank you.
Oh, so I'm so glad to have you in the space. The way that we connected initially was a couple of years ago now. So
Mhm.
wow, 2 years already of Dream Big Urban Festival at Move Space, which was the way that I started to connect with you. But I'm pretty sure there might be still some people that might not know you. So I wonder if you wish to share a little bit of who Brit is, and then you can decide if you want to go personal or professional or
Sure.
both way together.
Yeah, oh, I love that. Yeah, what a question, eh? Who am I? um, yeah, I suppose it's kind of cool to start from earlier life. Um, Back in how early back we're gonna go? Yeah, okay, I got it. So basically, classic Kiwi upbringing, shall we say? Well, one of the classic, I guess there's a few different formulations, but the one I had was lots of camping, lots of nature time, lived in Tamaki Makaurau, very connected to the Hauraki, Moana and that ocean. So much time, yeah, in nature and just loving this country that we're in. And that led me to basically a big epiphany I had in university when I had to choose another major at the time, and I was studying business, and I thought was going to go down this one particular kind of traditional business route, marketing, yada yada yada. And anyway, I had a big epiphany when I was doing a summer job around the population in a certain area of the country that was very underprivileged and was suffering from health conditions, from damp housing, being hospitalized, children every year, and all of these crazy statistics. And, I was entering them in sheet after sheet after sheet. And all of a sudden, it wasn't just a random statistic. It was like, wow, this is, someone's life. And it was just this huge turning point for me to be like, what am I going to do with my privilege, I guess? And at that point, I chose to major in sustainability and explore, what it actually takes to create a world that's more equitable and shares resources and just is designed in a whole new way. So it was pretty cool. I was pretty passionate. I was very kind of surprised that more people weren't aware of it back at the time. This was like, oh goodness, oh my gosh, showing my age, like 5 years ago, something like this. And I'd be like, I'm in sustainability. And people were like, oh, you mean recycling? And I'd be like, oh no, it's a bit more than that. But anyway, so was doing that for a bit, and I always felt like something was missing, right? Because it was this very Western view of like, this is how we change the world, this is how we change our systems, blah 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 blah. But it felt like, I don't know, something in the heart was missing, something on this other level I couldn't quite put my finger on. And I ended up getting mentored by a beautiful lady at AUT University with a background in kaupapa Māori, and she was basically sharing me the Indigenous views of what was wrong with the world. And the one thing that really stood out to me was, she said all the chaos that's in the outside world is a reflection of what's going on inside of us. And that was huge. Like, it was so huge. I was like, oh my goodness. So, everything out here, it starts inside us. And it's kind of one of those things that you hear and you're like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. But at the time, it was really big for me, and it still is big for me, and a big reminder I come back to. So then I was on this big path of, okay, if it all starts with me, if it all starts with each of us, how do I want to make change in this world? I tried working at, in corporate sustainability. That wasn't quite right. I tried working at some nonprofits, working on environmentalism. That wasn't quite right either. And what I came to was I really loved showing individual people that they could influence the world in some way. And that often that influence or that impact they could have started by showing them that they were worthy of going after that impact, that they could discover what they wanted to do in this world by connecting to themselves and what they cared about and their values, and that they could sustain that and live a really amazing, epic, awesome life by making sure that their well-being and connection to the earth, connection to themselves, connection to, you know, well-being practices and what filled up their cup was in place too. So yeah, that's where I came to. Many burnout cycles later, trying to change the world. That's where I came to. And yeah, that led me to start Generation Thrive, which was at the time young sustainability leaders, and we're teaching these programs that taught that thing, kind of expanding to different universities. That was pretty cool. And then we started Dream Big a few years back with my friend Ashley Duncan out of MoveSpace, which was essentially a group of people coming together to support each other on their dreams and their goals, whether you were a creative, whether you were a social impact entrepreneur, whether you were working on your own business, anything like this. And we just found there was so much magic when people came together in circle and just were each other's cheerleaders, and not just kind of a tap in once in a while. It was like every week, like, how can we support you? How can we lift you up when maybe you've fallen down or maybe you've had a bad week? And that was epic. We had the festival, we ran some programs, we ran some online challenges, masterclasses, so much. Me and Ash always look back and we're like, how did we do this much? Well, we burnt out a few times, but we're learning, and we're always learning, and we're very open about that. But yeah, so now, I mean, this is kind of veered into what Dream Big is, but here we are. So now we're basically running like a gym style membership for people's goals and dreams. And then there's kind of different challenges and meetups and whatnot online to support that, which is really exciting. But yeah, away from the kind of project mahi and work and what I love doing, I'm just a big nerd on self-development and how I can better myself, and like how I can just not even better myself, just enjoy life more, and what little tweaks and subtle shifts can I make, if it's in my routines, if it's in how I plan my week, if it's in how I do, you know, participate in yoga and things like moving my body, anything, relationships, all of this stuff. I'm just like, shoot, how can I just enjoy this life the most I possibly can? And that's probably central to me. I also really like cheesy pop music, dance parties, a bit of Disney music, soundtrack, movies. Yeah, I'm a little bit woo. I love like Indigenous wisdom. I love all of these practices that we've forgotten, which, you know, to some people, they're like, wow, that's a little bit out the gate, but I love it. Yeah, that's probably a good spiel. I'll leave you with that. That was my TED Talk. Thanks.
Oh, that's amazing. It's so wonderful to get to know you a little bit deeper through this podcast,
Yeah.
and find the similarities, but also like in connection with myself, but also your journey, your personal journey towards where you are today. And it's
Mm,
amazing to see how life was meant to be for you in regard to what you were supposed to be here for. And it's like
mm,
very inspiring to witness that spark that you still have, you know, within yourself while you're sharing. And I really enjoyed to see that light in yourself. i
thank you.
I was wondering if you could dive a little bit deeper in Dream Big, in a sense that, of course, is something that everybody has dreams. But what we don't know about dreams is that, to me, they give us the possibility of truly be, as it says, dream big. And so sometimes I notice how we limit ourselves towards our capability, or even
Mm,
just dreaming for the sake of dreaming. So I wonder if you could explore a little bit more in
mm,
terms of an actual, like, if I'm someone that never came before and I'm not too sure what to expect, and I'm not too sure if I truly want to commit, but still I want to try. There is these things that kind of call me in. How would you describe Dream Big on on a experiential level?
yeah, sure. So Essentially, it's for anyone who wants to be inspired and just connected with awesome humans who are creating a life that excites them, in a nutshell. Because, often we don't know what our dreams are. We don't know what the next step is. But the more we surround ourselves with people who are walking that same path, who are experimenting, who are kind of hungry for those answers, the more it just naturally seeps into us. And it is such a classic concept, right? Like the people we surround ourselves with are kind of who we turn into being. So that is very much a strong pillar. But also just like having fun, like first and foremost, we're there to connect, we're there to hear how people's days are going, what's hard, what wins are, this kind of thing. And I feel like that flavor just keeps it really light. And we always have people telling us like it didn't matter what mood they were in when they came, they left feeling like their cup was really full. And that's, yeah, like first and foremost, what we're really excited to provide people. Yeah, because so often it can be isolating, right? Like if you're kind of new to this personal development space, or you're new to a space that might be slightly different to your friendship group or way of usually been hanging around, it can be quite isolating. And often we're looking for those people who are reflecting that next area of growth we're ready to walk into, or just people who have a bit more of a clue and we want to learn, what they've learned. I remember when I first got into this kind of space, and it'd be the end of a talk that I'd go to, and I'd like walk up to the speaker and I'd be like, what are your book recommendations? Like, what are your biggest lessons? Like, I just was so wanting that knowledge. And that's the beautiful thing. I feel like we can learn so much from people who are slightly further along that path than us. Yeah, so hopefully that answers your question. Yeah.
Absolutely, it does. And actually, another question that I had, probably from my own experience with this project of art yoga, you mentioned that initially in your path you were connected to the business area, and I
Yeah.
wonder if is that something that you kept as your personal knowledge to include in a way that dreams just don't stay dream, or they stay in the air, sort of, that they never become part of our reality as we are experiencing it. So I wonder if part of the knowledge that you share in this, although it might not fully resonate anymore with the natural principle or the spiritual principle that you might be connected to, if that knowledge is still part of what you can offer as a sharing to improve people experience also on a 3D level. I don't know how to describe reality in a way that it doesn't use the word
Sure.
reality.
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone's a teacher, right? And everyone who is open to the path of growth and self-awareness and personal development and entrepreneurship, we're constantly learning lessons because we're open to them, because we are reflecting, because we are talking to people who we aspire and getting their feedback and this kind of thing. So yeah, like there's stuff that I might share from my time in formal studies, shall we say, but I have got 1,000 times more. And I probably, sorry, university people, and I love university, and some courses that I did were amazing. But for the most part, like for my dream journey, shall we say, that was just trial and error and giving it a go. And again, like finding those circles of people who were also out there doing it, maybe like going interning with them, volunteering with them. If there was, when I was at university, if there was something offered like a free ticket to somewhere or this kind of thing, I would do it. I would ask organizations at uni, like, did you have, like I said, any internships or roles that I could learn? And then, like it's like a domino. I don't know if you've ever read, I mean, I'm sure you have, like The Alchemist or these types of books. It's like you just follow that first step on the path, and it might be to go to this event, say like an event on entrepreneurship or an event on whatever it is you're passionate about. And then you meet someone there and they're like, oh, have you done this course, or have you met this person? And then you're like, oh, no, but that sounds great, because you aspire to be similar to this person. So you're like, oh, okay, cool, I'm going to go do that. And then that's where you get those beautiful nuggets that come along the way that you end up sharing with others. And I'll give you an example. A few years back, I basically did this personal development course at Youthline, which is really amazing. Really recommend it. I think it's called Personal Development. And I invited this friend along to join me on this course. And then anyway, we ended up connecting. I didn't really know her. She was a friend of a friend. We went on this course. And then she ended up having a spare ticket to this entrepreneurship conference. And at the time, I didn't really see myself as an entrepreneur. I was like, oh, I just want to make impact in the world. Yeah. Like, that's fine. And anyway, she invited me along. I wake up that Saturday. I'm quite tired. I'm like, oh, do I even want to go? Like, it's a free ticket. I'm not sure. I go. And it was one of my most life-changing experiences of my life. It was like, we were doing meditations on connecting to our ancestors. We were talking about how business isn't even really business. It's just helping people. It was all of these little dot connectors that I hadn't had before that moment. But anyway, all of this wouldn't have happened, if I didn't go to that course, if I didn't offer others to come and join with me. And then from that conference, I got introduced to a coach at the time who coached me for 3 years, who was one of the top life coaches in New Zealand and had a youth team. So many random synchronicities. So yeah, my point is, I guess, the learning cycles will just come if you're open to them, and then you'll find one day that you're sharing those learnings and teachings with others, and you're like, oh wow, how did I even get here?
It's so fascinating that you're talking about the alchemist in relationship with your experience in life, because I just take it out again, and it's the second time I'm reading it, and I'm fully present to your life experience and knowing what you're meaning when you're sharing all these synchronistic moments that take you one step to the next one. And probably in relationship to that, another curiosity that you kind of answer a little bit with this example of your life experience, but if there were more moment, especially initially when you started to notice your, when you were in your I don't know to say it properly in English, but you said that you had an epiphany. So in that epiphany moment, did you had many doubts or a fear of the change that you were doing towards a kind of linear life path that you were going through, or it was like a easy smooth things that it came more natural just because you were so curious and so interested to discover even more about what the possibility were available? So I wonder how easy it was for you to actually take knowledge of these signs, let's say, and keep on going forward with not much fear or not much doubt towards your path.
Yeah, so there was a few turning points where that really landed with me. One of them was at the end of my degree. I kind of realized, wow, because I studied sustainability, a whole semester on climate science. I was like, oh my gosh, what are we doing as a species? Existential crisis type thing. And I decided to go and take 3 months and just explore Southeast Asia. Classic, cliche. I found myself where I found elements of my way that I wanted to be in the world, this might be a good way to put it. Anyway, so I was on this kind of 3 months travel, and I decided I'd have no plan. I mean, I had a loose plan of where I wanted to go, but I was very open. I'd just choose whatever space I felt called to. And when I did that, it was like the experiences that would show up for me, because I was just in this trust energy, were absolutely insane. It was meeting people who are like my dearest best friends that I'd never met before. It was, finding myself in homestays where I learned their perspectives on climate change. It was a really fascinating trip, and it really led me to trust that alchemist path, because I'd seen it play out solo traveling, which I guess is why so many people love that experience. So from there, I had a lot of trust the first few years. I was kind of following the path. But it was most likely when I left my full-time job, my first kind of grad job, or when I was in that grad job, and I just knew that I had more to give to this goal, Generation Thrive, and this leadership program at the time than I was able to. And it was like a lot of fear, a lot of, is this the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? Why can't I push past these limits, etc. And I really struggled with that for about 3 or 4 years. And then that same struggle translated onto Dream Big. And there was a lot of like energy blockage, I'd kind of call it. And it was like I would set all of these goals, but I would just not do them. And it would be like weeks had gone past and I'd be like, oh, I never updated that website, or oh, I never reached out to those 3 decision makers who said they were going to introduce me to like the chief executive of that company. I just didn't do it. I had like invoices of, $30,000 that I just didn't follow up because something was blocking me on a subconscious level. So there was often many times where I thought, is this path the right one for me? And sometimes I'd paused, I rested, I'd get myself into burnout cycles. I'd have to, reevaluate. But ultimately, it's only been like the last few months where things have really started to shift. And I wouldn't say I'm like 1,000% sure of my path, but I'm usually sure of the next, 90 days in front of me and what I'm doing for that period of time, because that just feels like the best aligned time to plan for and exist in, if that answers your question.
It does, and thank you so much for that. And while you were talking, you said a solo traveler, and I kind of imagine our life to be anyway a solo traveler, especially when we have this connection with what our existence is meant to be, and how challenging is anyway. Even when we find our path, it's still quite scary. And this is something that I wish to share, possibly also with those that they haven't start their journey yet towards their dream, but how committed we need to be anyway on a daily basis for ourselves and those things, but also sort of compassionate, because we're still gonna have our down in it's still gonna be an up and down journey. And I wonder, you mentioned a couple of time of your burnout, so how were you dealing, for example, with those challenging moments where it was possibly harder to cheer yourself up, but still possibly there was that sense of being alive and still move forward despite the time that we needed to be nourishing and resting ourselves then in order to have the energy enough to move forward?
Yeah, it's one of the one of the biggest lessons of my life, I have to say. There's kind of 3 key points here. I would say one is having a support circle around you that can remind you of how capable you are when you can't see it, because that does happen on this journey. So that was huge. I was lucky enough to be able to invest in having like a coach and kind of a coaching team, but you can find other like accessible communities or just different groups of people who are on a similar path who want that kind of all-in support, or perhaps a lesser support level if that's where you're at. So that was really important. The other thing was looking at very clearly what my patterns were in life. So I like to kind of think of this like the experiment that is me, how my brain works, what I jump to when things are hard, what I let slide when things get hard, and how that affects me. So I really started treating my life like it was an experiment. I would take away coffee for a year because I drink like 5 cups a day and go crazy, like, procrastinating and then finishing something because of my subconscious blocks. I took away alcohol for a year because I found like that for me, I was quite sensitive, and then my Mondays would be not great. My Tuesdays would kind of be average. And I was like, oh, what would happen if I took this away? I did a challenge to do breath work every day and just see how that clearing of my energy impacted my day. which was huge, and a lot of learnings on how not to commit to a breathwork practice. And that took me like 2 years to master. And before that, like daily meditation took me like 3 years to kind of master. So all these different things, but really being open to this experiment, tracking things, simplifying, because often I'd be like, okay, I'm going to work on these 20 habits and this is going to go great. No, Britt, no, it's not going to go great. I would overcomplicate so many things. So yes, simplicity was a big thing. And then the third one was just really trusting that my subconscious mind was so much more insightful than I ever gave it credit. And for me, this insight came from exploring Indigenous wisdom. It came from exploring, my Celtic roots. It came from exploring Te Ao Māori views on wisdom. And a lot of these cultures were all saying, and a lot of, the different spiritual texts and etc. are essentially all saying, like, there is this force that you can tap into, call it nature, call it the universe, call it your higher self, your subconscious, whatever it is. And when you learn about your mind and how you can program it, when you learn about, this force that these cultures all connected to, and you just trust that you can work with that, and whatever way that looks like for you, it might be setting goals with the moon, because there's a really huge benefit in connecting back to the cycles of nature. It might be doing little rituals for yourself in the morning where you just say, whatever that force is, I invite you to guide me today and help me when my ego or that structure tries to get in the way, all these different things. And I just trusted in that force and in my subconscious mind. And it led me to amazing insights, recommendations. I talked to so many people like, hey, how do you stay focused? How do you get over burnout? So that was probably the fourth thing, is just being like a beginner's mindset and being so hungry for people's insights. And then a combination of all of that got me to really get real with what was standing in my way of following through with what I felt my intuition, my gut feel wanted me to do, and seeing those blocks and getting creative and gamifying how I overcame them. So yeah, that's probably the four things. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much, Britt. I never had the chance to see it my life as an experiment, like only that way, so that it kind of, you create a sort of detachment from what you're experiencing, but at the same time, you become just like an observer of your
Yes.
daily reality. So it's fascinating the way that we can tap into that connection with ourselves and take a little bit of distance to see how we can improve or what we can remove from what we've been used to for many
100%.
years. Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
quite interesting to see it on that point of view. I might start to have the same sort of connection and see how that will play out in a month's time and what improvement I might have done in I don't know, let's say 30 days. So it's something really
Yeah.
grateful to experience on ourselves, and of course according to what we feel connected to, since we are all different, but still we can be inspired by others. So it's quite fascinating you're sharing.
100%.
Oh, thank you for that.
It's very fun.
And I have another question mainly related to your project, and if there is anything that we need to be on the lookout for the time ahead, this year, 2023, what we
Yeah.
can expect from your project, or how we can connect with you through them, if there is something that you wish to share.
Absolutely. Great question. Tie it back in. Yes, so Ash and I are launching our next round of the Dream Big memberships, which essentially is a support crew, monthly calls, monthly challenges, hype, tools, resources, all of the good stuff, kind of circling back to why we started Dream Big and keeping it really accessible. So that is happening late March, and we would love to support more people walking that path of making their goals and dreams a reality, and just having so much more fun doing it with community. So that's coming up. And then we'll have like one of the challenges around committing to yourself and just showing you how much fun you can have committing to yourself and choosing one tool or practice or commitment that you want to work on. So that will be happening March as well. What else? Oh, there's also it's not daily, our weekly newsletter or love letter, we like to call it, all around how to fall in love with Mondays, because your life starts on Monday. So many amazing things starts on Monday, and how can we design our life every day of the week to be incredible? So we send that out and would love you to subscribe if that sounds exciting. And then I'll also be documenting a little bit more on this concept of how to self-coach yourself via a blog once a week too, because that's a journey I'm going on after seeing the 5 years of blocks that I've been unconsciously sitting with. And I'm like, wow, this is wild. So I'm really experimenting even more intensely this year and would love to share those learnings with anyone who's curious. So yeah, that'll be happening soon. But essentially at Dream Big Monday Club is our Instagram handle, and that's probably the best way to stay in touch. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm really curious to see how the calendar will be filled in with all these events and trying to squeeze time to be part of them as well. I wonder if there is at this point something that I haven't asked you yet, or something that you truly wish to share it hasn't been part of our conversation up to this point.
Yeah, cool. What is feeling alive to share? I suppose just a little yarn. We'll see where this goes. Not too sure what will come out, but yeah, some of the like biggest lessons that I've learned, other than what I've shared before, is something you mentioned, which I think is so important. And it's this like deep self-compassion for wherever you're at on the dreams and goals journey, because we're brought up in a society that essentially tells us it's right or it's wrong. It's, go to this career, figure it out, follow society. We're forced to compare our lives every day to other people on social media. We're conditioned to say you should have ticked off these social norm goals. All of this stuff is programming us to tell us that we're not like worthy of the life that others are having. And I suppose like my biggest message to anyone out there, like whoever you're at, is your ideal life will look so different to everyone else's. And the more you explore what lights you up, as cheesy as that sound, as you follow those little tiny moments of curiosities, some people are like, oh, what's an intuition? How do I follow it? All it is following those little curiosities and just seeing where that takes you, one step out in front of the other. A metaphor I love is like, you're walking this path of an enchanted forest when you start following the curiosities. And you only have a kind of what's those old school lights, like a candle or some kind of lamp.
I don't know the name in English, but
I
I
don't
could
know.
tell you the Italian one.
Yeah. So you've got this kind of lamp that doesn't really, it's not like an iPhone light that shines the whole way. You can only see what's in front of you, and that is what it's like, following this path of goals, of dreams, of fulfilling whatever it is you feel like you were here to do, and even figuring it out is like that path too. So we never really know what the next step is, and sometimes in the enchanted forest a boogeyman jumps out, or there's a shadow and you think it's a boogeyman and then it's just a little squirrel. So there's all of these like kind of funny metaphors you can pull out, but just keep following those curiosities and know that all of this conditioning you're coming up against, you will work through it eventually. It's like just a matter of time, and you just have to give yourself rest breaks, make sure you're having fun, take holidays, talk to wise elders, experts, be involved in communities, listen to your favorite podcast, whatever it is. But just know that eventually you'll get there. Like, I'm a testament. I've been working on this for like 5, 6, 7 years, and it's only like this year that I'm like, oh, I'm starting to understand this whole life thing. I'm 29 years old now, and we're finally here. 7 years of like pretty intense self work and healing and ancestral pattern healing and all of this stuff. But you do get there. And I also think if you're listening to this and you're under kind of 27, 20s are hard. The 20s are quite hard. So just hang in there, and you will get there. And yeah, that's definitely my biggest message for you all out there.
Thank you so much for that. And that I think it resonates perfectly with what we were sharing earlier about the commitment to ourselves and knowing that,
Mm,
as you said, we can see only a small portion of light in the dark. So we need to
mm,
find our own way to be comfortable and balanced in the present moment, although sometimes can
mm,
be quite challenging and scary. And also trying to figure it out that this is something that I'm still working for myself. I'm like you, I'm like in my
mm.
7th year of my personal discoveries, and I'm like, whoa, now I understand what that meant
Yes.
long 7 years ago. I know that this is
Yeah.
just the beginning anyway,
Yeah.
but I'm in the path right now where I'm trying to figure it out when I'm experiencing fear for something, to understand if it
Mm,
comes from my mind or if it comes from my heart, and know that
mm,
even if it's something is being intuitively presented to me and I'm curious, I might still feel frightened about it. And so trying to see why am
mm.
I feeling like that,
Yeah.
and see if it's the right moment for me to proceed or still need to be patient and understand that for everything we need process, like we need time, as we share, like there are things that we just
Yeah.
understood fully now after 7 years of practice on ourselves. So to be
Yeah.
still patient if there is something that we can still overcome right now, it will come eventually, or if it doesn't come,
Yeah.
we are at least aware of it. So yeah,
100%. And if I could say one more thing on that is
of
what I've learned
course.
over these 7 years is that that fear, that resistance, that overwhelm, they're all green flags to get curious about yourself, to know that there's like a treasure chest of healing or learning or reflection that you get to open and you get to unpack and you get to move through. And that's when you really need that team of support around you, whether that's, you can get some free therapy and things like this through GPs in New Zealand and most DHBs. You can find different accountability structures, go to events where people who are doing the same type of work are around you, and find people who celebrate when those hurdles come up, because they exist, and they're like, oh, you've hit this resistance, oh, that's amazing, like you're going to grow so much from this. Like that's the type of energy we can tune into when we're on this path, and I think that is so 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 important. So yeah, it's definitely a green flag. It's not a red, sometimes if you tune in, it's like, oh, this isn't a right now, or like I need to pause this and look after my mental health. But ultimately know that, yeah, they're green flags. And when you do have the energy to venture into them, there are so many gifts there. And I guess you and I, 7 years down the track, are a testament to that, right? We're like, oh, it gets better. And you can still have fun whilst you're in the 7 year time as well. Like there's so many beautiful highs and lows. Someone said it's like personal growth and going after goals and dreams, everything like this. It's like, being on the most intense, beautiful, magical roller coaster ride. Like you can't have the fun upside downs and the highs without those kind of lows. And it's such a privilege, especially if you can kind of afford to invest in these types of programs or books or courses or have the mental space to do it. It's such a privilege to be able to do it, because we're not just doing it for ourselves, we're doing it for everyone around us, we're doing it for our loved ones, we're doing it for our friends, our community, the world. Like it's so much bigger as well than just ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like the domino effect that you were sharing earlier. This
Mm,
is, yeah, it's gonna affect us first because we are making time and space for it, but definitely it will become a wider
yeah.
circle and a wider circle,
Yeah.
and just by being ourselves, we can inspire and supporting
Mhm.
others in start their own journey as well. So yeah, I definitely resonate with this sharing.
Yeah.
I'm aware that we are towards the end, but I would like to ask you firstly if there is any particular way in which people might best connect to you if they wish to know more about both of your project, or you
Mm,
personally, in a way that they might um, be inspired for what you share, but still wish to connect deeply and potentially
sure.
start their own journey. Everything
Yes.
will be anyway in the description of this episode, but if there is
Oh,
one that resonate with you more, that you are more active in, that, then I wish for you to
yeah.
share.
Yeah, totally. I would say the Dream Big stuff is pretty present at the moment. So connecting to us via Instagram or via our website, which we're in the process of updating, but there's still a Dream Big section there that you can click on and connect and sign up to our kind of weekly updates, and they're kind of more like mini blogs of this type of life. So we'd love to see you on there and just share the excitement and the joy and the gifts that come from walking this journey. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Britt, for that. And then I have my final question that I know that some people like to take their time, so I prefer to have
Sure.
enough time for that. You kind of share already really beautiful messages with our listener. And one thing that I like to do when we conclude the practice, which is similar to what we do during the practice of art yoga, but that is more towards ourselves, while in this case is more like towards the world around us.
Yes.
And my request is, if you have three empowering messages that you wish to share with us, including, of course, in this us, yourself, me, and whoever is listening right now. You share so many empowering messages. You can also
Just
repeat them
kidding.
if you feel like they
Oh,
need to be a bigger motivation for us today.
sure. Okay, so the first one that feels really alive is a dear friend of mine who working with different Indigenous elders and tribes and groups across the world, with incredible corporates and like leading people. She said when she spoke to one elder, I believe it was an Aboriginal elder, I can't remember the area of Australia, but this was at the time of COVID, when the world outwardly looks like an absolute shit show, excuse my language, and everyone's like, what's happening? And she said this beautiful elder just said to her, the world needs more dream circles. The world needs more places where we feel safe to express the type of world we want to live in, and we feel like empowered and supported to go out there and create it. So that's a huge one. It's like all of this chaos in the world, just remember, like, one of the most important things you can do is think about how you want to show up in the world and how you want to impact the world. Two huge things. And how you look after, what's your dream circle for your well-being as well. It's also kind of in there. We don't want to burn out changing the world. The second one would be, you are the experiment. So just have so much fun getting to know your codes. We're like a computer program, right? Crack your codes, reflect, have little dates with yourself, make the experiment of you so pleasurable and fun that you can't wait to do those, self-coaching dates, those reflection sessions. That's huge. The third one was that you're right on time. Wherever you're at is perfect. Just trust, as long as you're taking those small, tiny baby steps, as long as you are, moving more from a place of love than a place of fear and a place of trust, then you're right on time. Yeah.
I guess that this is one of my favorite part of the episode, because it's the one where I embrace everything that is shared and I kind of absorb it for myself first. And
I love that.
I really like them, especially the last one. You're always on time, and I'm tend to be like always checking my clock and feel that I could actually be
Yeah.
late,
Yeah.
but knowing that
Yeah.
I'm always on time, it kind of makes it easier to accept life as it comes, even
Mhm.
when it's not exactly the way that we wish it to be or the way that we predict it. So thank you so
Totally.
much for all of your sharing, and especially those three empowering messages that I hope that will be
Mm.
inspiring also for others, not just myself. But
So welcome.
definitely for me they are. So we're gonna start our own ripple effect with that. So thank you.
Beautiful. So welcome.
And thank you, Britt, for your time and your wisdom. I truly appreciate your energy and your sharing get to know you a little bit deeper and see the light within you and trying to appreciate and show you my gratitude towards your light to mine. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. And yeah, I hope this resonates with who it resonates with, and obviously take what does, leave what doesn't. Yeah, so much gratitude to share, and yeah, just be walking the path.
Thank you everyone for listening and have a good day. Bye.
Buongiorno e benvenuti. Welcome to Art Yoga Pills with me, your host, Dinny. In this space we will connect and share together about creativity, inner child and self-awareness. Siete pronti? Enjoy! Grazie per averci fatto compagnia. We hope you enjoyed your time with us. If you wish to stay updated and connected, visit us on our social media channels and our website www.artyoga.co. Ci sentiamo presto! Ciao! See you!